You are. Have fun, take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. Good luck to you.
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here. Brett, be affirmative. You told me that I'm...
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times by the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah!
11 got it. Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
And welcome to Racing and Then Draft. My name is Mark. Thanks for joining me on a beautiful Sunday morning instead of Saturday night. Sorry for the slight delay, but family first. Had to help some family get packed up and moved. They're heading out west to Arizona, so good luck to their travels this week. I am actually headed to Kansas tomorrow for a week in Kansas, but I'll be back in time to do the breakdown for Miami Homestead, hopefully next Saturday night, but if not, Sunday morning. Fingers crossed we can get it taken care of Saturday, but my son does have some baseball games. And then the following weekend, I'll be in Charleston, South Carolina for the weekend, so I will be remote that weekend. So I will still have a video. We're getting down to it, though. Lots of activities in my world, plus lots of fun on the track. Before we head to Las Vegas, though, let's take a look back at the Roval at Charlotte. And what's your thoughts? Should we keep the Roval or should we go back to the Oval? I'm kind of on the thoughts that we need to go back to the Oval. So, but I do like the Roval too. It's kind of fun. It's interesting, but we've got enough road courses. All right, AJ Allmendinger pulls out the win, and an emotional win too. I tell you what, I do like watching AJ Allmendinger's just pure celebration when he gets a win in the Cup Series. He just wears his emotions on the sleeves, and it's just kind of cool to watch him win. So, always been a big fan of AJ, and hopefully he'll be in Cup next year, but if not, I think he'll be in Xfinity. So either way, it will be fun to watch AJ for the next couple of years. All right, our lineups from the Roval. 109 laps, no extra laps because of late cautions. AJ Allmendinger did get the win, started in 6th. I did like him this past weekend. I also liked William Byron, who once again finished well, and Chris Buescher, who every road course this year I think has been either in the optimal or at least in the top 10 of points. I think he's finished in the top 10 of every road course race this year. So good on Chris Buescher. Ty Gibbs coming in with a 4th place finish. I'm telling you, the kid's just knocking on the door. Eventually, maybe he will get the win before the year is out. Will this weekend be it? I say that every weekend. So that way I just cover my tracks. If it doesn't happen, I also think that it's possible that he doesn't. But I think this track lines up really well for Ty Gibbs. He's very good at the mile and a half. He's put a lot of work in, and I think it would be kind of cool to get a win for Ty Gibbs before the year is out. But I also think that my guy Kyle Larson might be the guy to beat today, along with a couple others. It's going to be interesting up front. There are literally 5 or 6 guys that I think could easily win this race. But we'll cover them as we get through this. A couple guys that I didn't think would have great races at the Roval, but ended up having one. Alex Bowman finishing in 8th, good on him. I mean, Alex is a pretty good road course racer in his own right, but not somebody we typically put or think about putting into our optimal lineup, especially kind of starting 16th. There wasn't a whole lot of place differential. And Ryan Preece kind of really surprised me, but the cost savings with the Ryan Preece at 6,300 definitely kind of let that happen. So an 11th place finish for Ryan Preece, but Kyle Larson starting from the back didn't quite make the optimal lineup, even though he had the third highest point total, just because of the way pricing worked out. So you probably could, if you had him in place of, AJ, I mean, it's a loss, or Chris, actually, you couldn't replace him, Chris Buescher. That's the problem. I mean, Kyle Larson at 10,300, you couldn't have these other guys in your lineups. But do you think we could have a tire issue? Tire issue. Good morning, Andrew. Thanks for joining in. Tire issue. Tire wear is going to be an absolute thing. But with Chase Elliott blowing a tire after 16 laps and wadding up his car, Daniel Suarez doing the same, Kyle Larson felt the vibration, came in, and he had a chunk of rubber out of his right rear tire. It's possible, absolutely. All the drivers seem to think that it's not a concern. And usually if they do, I mean, especially Kyle Larson, he's pretty well spoken about if there are issues, and he doesn't think it's going to be an issue in the race. So it makes me think they were trying to set up for a very short run speed instead of long run speed, which is kind of unusual for Kyle Larson because he's usually looking for long run speed. So maybe he was looking more for a qualifying effort and not for race pace. I mean, will we see a tire failure? Probably. These guys are going to get aggressive with the way they set the cars up and the way they set the tires up. Do I think it's going to be a big problem like we saw at Texas last year? Probably not. I think these guys knew what they were doing when they did it and were just trying to find that extra ounce of speed. I mean, Chase Elliott's in the owners' playoffs, but not in the drivers' playoffs. So, I mean, the real money is in the owners' playoffs. So, they're going to try to find everything they can. Same with Kyle Larson, being in both the owners and drivers' championship is going to. I mean, he's safe right now, but if he can get himself a win this weekend, I think they were just kind of seeing how far you can push the issue, because that's kind of what you want to do in practice anyways. You're setting up for, you've got a couple different mindsets. Either you're setting up for race pace and long run speed, or you're setting up to try to get a great qualifying, and you already have a pretty good idea of what the setup's going to be for long run speed. So I don't think it's going to be a major issue, but it definitely has this track has really high tire wear. They're carrying a lot of speed into a really tight turn 1 and turn 3. Coming off of turn 4 definitely narrows up quite a bit, so the steering kind of comes into play. They take some really crazy lines coming through the front stretch on that D-shaped trioval. So yeah, we could see some tire degradation. We could see some issues with tires. It's really going to be who hits the setup right and who manages and takes care of their equipment that's going to end up doing well. And I think the ones that we've seen do that all year are going to do that again. Weather's not going to be really that big of an issue. It's not going to be super hot. It's not going to be super cold. I think they're calling for temperatures to be in the mid 70s. So for Vegas this time of year, that's going to be really, really comfortable. But it's still in the desert. The sand eats at that track. It makes it a lot rougher, which eats tire wear. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great race. I'm excited for today's race. I think I think the 1.5 miles really suits this next gen car really, really well. And I mean, we're in the final round before the championship, so all the gloves are off at this point, especially with the 8 drivers left in it. But the optimal lineup challenge after 32 races with 4 races left. William Byron, top of the heap with 12. Next closest 3 away, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Chris Buescher. I mean, I guess technically Kyle Larson can tie William Byron. But I think pretty much it's a three-man race, and really it's William Byron's to lose at this point. So we might be able to, after this weekend, crown William Byron the optimal lineup challenge champ for the year. He really has just had a year. I mean, you're talking 12 of 32 races, so over a third of the time, actually almost, yeah, a little over a third of the time, William Byron is in the optimal lineup. Unreal run this year for William Byron. You know, that type of number is the same type of number we saw with Kyle Larson. I think Kyle Larson had 16 or 17 races, almost half of the races. Kyle Larson was in the optimal lineup in 2021 when he won the championship. So I don't know. Is that an indication of what we might see from William Byron this year? Is this a championship run? Very good potential. He's definitely on top of the points lead right now. All right, we head to Las Vegas for the South Point Hotel Casino 400 in the desert. Not as hot as normal, but still going to be sunny and warm, which will definitely kind of, like I said, heat those tires up. Track length is 1.5 miles with 18 degrees to 20 degrees in progressive banking through the corners. You can kind of run the top side if it kind of rubbers in. But the bottom side is going to be the fast way around. Dominator points, we do need to be concerned with dominators. Will we see a true dominator like a Kyle Larson going out and leading 200 laps? It's possible, but there's a lot of fast guys today. I think it's going to kind of be shared a little bit. So we probably want to target 2 dominators / 2 guys that are going to start up front and finish up front. And that, like I said, it's probably going to be spread around 5 different guys that I truly think could be could make this kind of a sleepy race. I mean, if anybody watched the Xfinity race yesterday, good on Riley Herbst for finally getting his first win and just, pretty much making it a snooze fest. I think he almost won by 15 seconds. I think there was like 8 cars left on the lead lap. It was absolutely crazy. What a clinic Riley Herbst put on. Now, remember, Riley is from Las Vegas, so it was a good win for him at his home track. And it was his first higher series. So he'd never won in Trucks, Cup, or Xfinity, and he finally got his first win in Xfinity. So congratulations to Riley Herbst. All right, so our track comparisons, we compare to Las Vegas. We also look at Kansas, Charlotte, and Miami. As far as high tire wear, you can also throw in Darlington. It's, 1.3 miles, so it's not too far off on how long of a track it is. But those are kind of the tracks. We can't really use Atlanta anymore because it got repaved and they changed the banking. Even though the length is the same, completely different style of racing for that track. I'm hoping that changes a little bit for next year. All right, for the real reason we came, let's start breaking the drivers down and looking at pricing and all of their stats and data. All right, so I'll go into detail with this first box here with Kyle Larson at the top at $11,000 in Draftkings. Kyle Larson is starting outside pole. Inside pole is the new Rocket Man, Christopher Bell. Man, that guy's just good at qualifying. Kyle Larson, so this first line here is where he qualified. He is starting second. Right next to it in the gray is practice speeds. So the first number here is 8th. So Kyle Larson was 8th in single lap speed. He did a total of 14 laps in practice. And then we look at a 10 lap average. So this is, you have to go out and run 10 consecutive laps without pitting. And this gives you a lap time. There were 24 of 36 drivers that did 10 lap runs. With a 20-minute practice session, they are 30-second lap times here. So, if you did the whole thing, you could get 40 laps in. But that typically is not what you're looking to do. So Kyle Larson was first in that 10-lap consecutive average. So pretty good for my guy Kyle Larson. Fast on long run speed, fairly quick on short run speed. Goes out and qualifies second. So outside pole for Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson does have one win here at Las Vegas in the last 5 races. So this next line down at the bottom left is looking at this line up here. It's Vegas from earlier this spring, the 2 races from Las Vegas last year, and the 2 races from 2021. Kyle Larson does have one win here. Next to the one win is top 5s, top 10s, and top 20s. So he's got 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 4 top 20s out of those 5 races. He's got a 57.2 Draftkings average over the course of those 5 races, which is pretty solid. And he's got a 10th place average finish. Then next here is the last race they raced here at Las Vegas, which was the spring race earlier this year, where Kyle Larson finished 2nd in that race next to his teammate William Byron. And kind of what I was saying, we're looking for kind of 2 dominators. Kyle Larson dominated a lot of that race along with William Byron. And then over here to the far right is his total race history at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Kyle Larson has a total of 14 races here, with that 1 win, 6 top 5s, 10 top 10s, and 12 top 20s out of the 14 total starts for a 9.1 average finish. So Kyle Larson is definitely solid here. He typically runs very well at 1.5-mile style tracks. Being in the hunt to get to the next round, and all 8 of the guys that are in the chase are looking to secure a win this weekend, so they can not kick back and relax, but they can turn all of their focus on getting Phoenix set up and ready. So the more time you've got for that, the better off you can be. Just look at what Joey Logano did last year. He won here at Vegas last year and was set up and ready to go and dominate that race in Phoenix last year. All right, so over here to the top left is kind of where I put everything. Once I kind of look at everything, track comparisons, the last 5 races here, the last 10 races that we have currently run in this season, that includes the road courses, super speedways. It's kind of more of a trend line. I also looked at practice, qualifying, and place differential. Well, Kyle Larson doesn't have a whole lot of place differential, but definitely has the potential for a high finish and potential dominator status. Once I kind of put all that together, kind of break it all down, I put some parameters around it, and it spits out Kyle Larson is for that algorithm, the number 1 pick. Kyle Larson probably is going to be pretty heavily owned. He has a tendency, when he does hit things right, it's either kind of checkers or records for Kyle Larson. Either he's going to finish top 3, if not win, or he's going to finish 35th. I think with everything that he kind of went through in round 2, they're going to have a great solid day today. I like Kyle Larson to at least stay in the top 5 and potentially lead quite a few laps. So looking for him to be one of the dominators that I'm focusing on. I have Kyle Larson in 35 to 40% of my lineups. I run a total of 40 different lineups. I run the 20 max tournaments, and this kind of gives you a kind of where I lie on Kyle Larson. And a lot of times, if you're looking for potentially what I think the ownership is going to look like across certain tournaments, I think Kyle Larson is going to be one of the heavily owned people. There is going to be one other guy that's going to be more owned than Kyle Larson. We'll get to him in a second. But I think Kyle Larson could probably is going to come in at about 30%. So take that for what it is. If you're looking to kind of go with the flow kind of in cash tournaments, Kyle Larson's probably a decent pick. If you're looking to kind of be contrarian, you could definitely pull off of Kyle Larson and go somewhere else. But, I mean, kind of like we saw yesterday, I mean, if you didn't have John Hunter Nemechek, who came from the back of the pack and had a ton of place differential yesterday, if you didn't have him, you weren't going to do well in your tournaments. If you did have him, then that was just kind of a wash. So I tend to go more with the flow, and then I'll throw in some more contrarian plays down on the cheaper side. So that's just kind of where I lie. But I could also running 40 different lineups. I can move things around and have different angles that I look at for each lineup. So Denny Hamlin next in line here, 10,800 starting 15th. Okay, it's a little slow. 30th in single lap practice. Okay, that's a lot slow. Did 23 total laps and he was 18th in 10 lap consecutive average. What's going on with Denny Hamlin? Oh, that's right. If you listen to his podcast, he says it's very normal, and this was on Monday prior to them ever showing up at Las Vegas. He's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if maybe if it's I'm hungover from partying on Thursday night, getting to Vegas or whatever, but it takes me a day or two to get reacclimated to the desert and Las Vegas. He goes, but I'll be slow in practice, but I'll have plenty of speed when it comes to the race. I mean, that's coming straight from the horse's mouth, so I guess I'll take him for what it is. But Denny Hamlin has been one of the most solid drivers so far in the playoffs. Round 2 was a little sketchy for him, especially at the Roval, but he was already locked in once he had some issues. So do I think he may have been overdriving the car a little bit? A little bit. He didn't seem to be too concerned about it. He thinks he's going to pick up right where he left off from round 1. So if that's going to be the case, this is going to be the Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson show from here on out. But I think there are a few guys that are going to want to argue that they should be in there too. But Denny Hamlin here at Las Vegas, over the last 5 races, does have a win. 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s. I mean, pretty solid numbers there. A 53.9 Draftkings average, not too far off from Kyle Larson. And a 10.6 average finish, not too far off from Kyle Larson either. He finished 11th in the spring race. And I mean, pretty much the same thing. 23 total starts here with 1 win, 6 top 5s, 11 top 10s, a 12.4 average finish. Comes in number 2 in my ranking system, and I've got him in 30 to 35% of my ownership. So I think Denny Hamlin is probably another safe, good, solid cash play if you're playing some cash tournaments. He's also a solid play for regular tournaments. I don't think you need to be super contrarian here at the top line. I think it's going to be the middle and lower side of things that really is going to make the difference on getting close to that optimal lineup, or at least cashing or making some decent money today. William Byron here next in line at 10,600, our winner from the spring race here at Las Vegas. 10,600, starting 3rd, practiced 3rd. 10 lap average, 3rd. Really consistent, 3rd. So will William Byron finish 3rd? I mean, if he finishes 3rd, it's still going to end up being a pretty decent points day. And I guess I mistyped that. I have 35 to 40% ownership in William Byron. I always have one little faux pas in these PowerPoints that I do. I don't know. It is what it is. He does have that 1 win from earlier this year in the spring. Along with that, he's got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s. I mean, he's the first driver that has finished all 5 races in the top 20, so that's something. 9th place average finish, so he's got a better average finish than Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. Not quite as high as a DraftKings 52.9. Like I said, he finished first in the spring race earlier this year, and I'm telling you, William Byron is just Mr. Consistent this year. Always there at the end, always there to win. Gets a few sneaky wins, but I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, he stole that win. He stole that win." And I'm like, he didn't steal the win. He had himself in a great spot and got the win. So you can call it sneaky for whatever you want. But 11 total starts here at Las Vegas with a 14.8 average finish. I mean, another just good, potentially solid pick. Now he does lead the points coming into Las Vegas, so he's got a little bit more of a buffer, and potentially could have one slightly bad race. And I don't think this is going to be the track that he has the issue. I think next weekend it might be more of maybe a William Byron, I'm not going to say roadblock, just a stumbling block. But he does really well at Martinsville, so if he can get through this round or through this race fairly clean, I think William Byron's going to be a pretty safe bet to make it to the Final Four. Tyler Reddick, 10,300, starting 8th. Practiced 8th in single lap. third in 10 lap consecutive average. Why do I have third on both of them? They both can't be third. I missed. There's another faux pas. Let's see. What do I have here? Tyler Reddick, third. William Byron, second. Okay, so William Byron was second. Sorry about that. Want to make sure I had that clear. So William Byron was second in 10 lap consecutive average, and Tyler Reddick was third in 10 lap consecutive average. Tyler Reddick does not have a win here. He does have a win at Kansas on the mile and a half a couple weeks ago. I mean, Tyler Reddick is pretty solid at mile and a halves. Starting 8th, slight place differential here, potential. These really good practice speeds, starting closer to the front. I think William Byron could have, or Tyler Reddick could end up having a really good day today. The mile and a half package for 23:11 is rock solid. It might be their best setup is the mile and a halves. And Tyler Reddick's probably best at mile and a halves next to road courses. After that, then it gets kind of ugly for Tyler. But a mile and a half, cookie cutter style tracks, something that you potentially could rip the top of the fence, which we'll see next week at Miami. Not going to see a whole lot of that today unless the tire rubber really gets worn into the grooves. But we did not see it yesterday in the Xfinity race. Lost Profit, how we doing, buddy? Definitely late, but I made it. Do you think a lot of cautions today, or do you think the crew chiefs figured out the tire issues? Yeah, Andrew was kind of asking the same thing about the tire issues. I mean, all the drivers and crew chiefs, at least in their interviews post-practice, didn't think that tire issue was going to be that there was going to be a tire issue. Like I was telling Andrew earlier, I think tire wear is definitely going to be something that we'll need to keep an eye on and kind of put into our thought process. There'll be some comers and goers. We saw that a lot yesterday in the Xfinity race. Yeah, the question is, can they get some of the high side to kind of rubber up and allow that to be usable? But this Cup car, it's definitely much different than the Xfinity car. It puts rubber down a little bit better, and the contact patches a little bit more, so they might be able to get up there and rip the fence a little bit. And if that ends up being the case, Tyler Reddick has a tendency to really run well when that high groove kind of comes in, along with Kyle Larson. That's kind of both of their cup of teas. So, do I think it's going to be an issue and a high caution? I think we'll have some cautions. I don't think this is going to end up being a snooze fest. At least most of the mile and a half so far this year have been very exciting. Whether we have a lot of cautions or not, I think we'll have a lot of comers and goers. Guys that'll have cars that are set up for fast runs early, and some guys that'll be able to save some tires and have some long run speed. And all these, I mean, everybody on this top page is definitely going to have potentially in the top 5. Draftkings has done a really good job with pricing this week. Everybody that I would expect to be up there is up there. I mean, they've been doing a good job all year so far. We haven't had too many anomalies, other than when like kind of Josh Berry kind of came into play. But I don't think tire wear is going to. I don't think there's going to be a tire issue per se. I think it's much more of a tire wear. We'll have some slipping and sliding and things like that. The track seems to be pretty slick. The bump and the turns is becoming more and more pronounced, which kind of definitely throws the car a little off kilter, which can make it a little bit more loose. Lost Prophet says, okay, cool. What are we doing with Elliott and Suarez? I'm in the 180 single entry and trying to figure out what to do with them. Oh, single entry. I mean, single entry. I think you almost have to take Elliott. The Suarez, I'm not as concerned about. I think Suarez's ceiling is potentially like 10th. Elliott and pretty much all of Hendrick Motorsports' ceiling is potentially a win. Yeah, the Hendrick cars were just running. I mean, they were trying to find some long run speed, and some short run speed, and just over pushed. So yeah, I think they're going to be fine. I like the Chase Elliott play more than I like the Suarez play. The Suarez just hasn't shown consistency. They've never been able to figure out how to get through traffic really well in that car this year. Chase Elliott has shown that he can get through the field a lot better. So if I'm picking one of the two, and I don't think you go for both. I've never seen, well, I have seen, but it's very rare that if you've got multiple cars coming from the rear that shouldn't be there, a Chase Elliott, I mean, and Daniel Suarez shouldn't be there. Daniel Suarez probably would have qualified 18th to 20th. And I think that's kind of where Suarez ends up falling. I think he ends up getting up to, if there is no issues and he gets involved in somebody else's mess or he wrecks, if he just has a normal race, no real issues, I think Daniel Suarez gets up to 12th to 15th. So does that put him in the optimal lineup? It's going to be close, but the problem is you're going to have, if you put Chase Elliott in there, and you're still going to look to have at least one or two of these dominators, all of a sudden you're way out of cash. I'm not even sure you end up fitting in much of anything else. I mean, let's just, let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Let's look at this real quick. All right, so if we do, I don't want that one. All right, hold on. I know. Give me 1 second here. Cup. Race. Vegas. All right. So if we go Chase. Okay, let's just put the two most expensive guys, Denny and Kyle, in a lineup. I mean, we now have $19,000 left for the three. So if we look at potentially trying to put a Suarez in there also, what does that end up leaving us? 11,700. I mean, on the low side, okay, let's go Corey LaJoy. $5,900 left. It means you could put a Justin Haley, Harrison Burton, or Todd Gilliland. I mean, it fits, and it's not an awful lineup. You know, I mean, that ends up being spending all the money. You've only got really one guy starting up in the front row. Denny Hamlin potentially coming for 15th that could potentially finish top 5. So, yeah, I mean, you could fit both of them in. I mean, I don't mind this lineup. I think it's kind of chalky, but I mean, the Justin Haley play probably will not be super chalky. You know, the Ty Dillon probably will not be chalky starting in 27th. So, let me get that back because I haven't put my entries all the way in yet. So, does that kind of, hopefully that kind of helps you out on kind of where to lean, especially with a single lineup. I mean, it almost, you want to be a little contrarian, but not too far contrarian, because, I mean, you don't want to go too far off the ranch on that one. Yeah. You could play them both. You know, I mean, you could make a little bit more room by playing a William Byron. Gives you an extra couple $100. You can get, you know, off maybe the Ty Dillon play. You know, you can even come all the way down to, what do we have next? Martin Truex Jr. Martin Martin Truex Jr. next on our board. Wow, we throw a curveball in here. I have no clue what to do with Martin Truex Jr. to be perfectly honest. You should make a site and charge for your data, man. I mean, maybe eventually I will. There's a lot of guys that do that. I might. I haven't decided. It's been much more of the last 2 or 3 years of getting a lot of the data in, and as time progresses, I'm digging more and more into data. So my newest one that I'm doing, I'll kind of share this with you guys, is I'm looking at previous races top 15 points at style tracks. Let me pull this up. I think I shared this a couple weeks ago. So let's look at top 15 Cup. I'll pull this over and share it with you guys. So pretty much, so Las Vegas Cup Series. So last 15 races. This is spring of 2023. I'm not sure how well this comes up on your screen. If you're looking on mobile, it's going to be pretty hard to see this. But if you're looking on a computer screen, it's going to be a little easier. So what I'm looking at here is I'm kind of breaking down how many people. So I take the total points for the day, their starting position and finishing positions. And what I'm really looking at is starting spots. I'm really not even looking at pricing or really even who the drivers are, except for I do kind of break some of the drivers down over here. But I'm looking at, number one, what does it take to make the top 15 in points? What do you need to make for the top 6 in points? Now, I'm going to probably say that this was not going to fit into an optimal lineup for the spring. It might have. But Alex Bowman was a little expensive back in the spring. So I'm not even looking at really what pricing is optimal. I'm looking at drivers and starting positions to find out who and where people are starting. And it's kind of interesting on how things fall. So, I mean, Kansas from earlier. So I've got all these different tracks, and starting in the top 5, go back to Vegas. So, you know, I didn't finish that one. That's not right. This is kind of a work in progress. So what I'm kind of looking at is, you know, Kansas. You would think it's all like place differential, because that's kind of what it used to be, was place differential. Not so much anymore, especially at these mile and a halves. The guys that run up front and start up front are staying up front. Some of the carnage, or we don't have a whole lot of carnage, but the comers and goers are staying up front, and everybody's kind of fiddling around the back. And this is kind of what that is showing, is the cream keeps rising to the top. I mean, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Bubba Wallace does really good these mile and a halves. 2311 is great at mile and a halves. But when we look at the starting spots, we're not seeing a ton of huge place differential. I mean, Noah Gragson from 28th to 18th got 35 points. So I'm starting to really kind of lean on this, and looking at, okay, 3.4 drivers over 5 races started in the top 5. So don't be scared. I used to have this mindset, and I just was not having the luck I used to have with DraftKings. And I'd had to figure out where am I missing? And I was missing because I was focused too much on place differential at these mile and a half, mile and a third type tracks. And all of a sudden I started looking at this data, and I'm like, that's where I'm screwing up, and I was avoiding top 10 starters unless I felt they could really go out and dominate. Well, that ended up being not the case, especially with this next gen car. I mean, 3.4 guys starting in the top 5, 2.2 are starting from 6th to 10th, and then 3.6 from 11th to 20th. Now, 4 out of the top 15 are also starting 21 to 30th. But then we really fall off. There's only one and a half that start 30th or worst. So you kind of look at, okay, what is the one guy that's in the 30s that I can focus on? Well, we've got two this week. Really, it's Chase Elliott and Daniel Suarez. After that, you really can't focus in on those guys. Then I start looking, okay, what 3 to 4 guys that are starting in the 20s do I look at? And then I also bring in all of my other data on how they're running consistently, lately, practice, qualifying, all that. That's how I'm starting to break down some of my lineups. And Martin Truex Jr. just does not rate well anywhere I look. So at that point, the only place that he rates well is in practice this week. Now, is that a sign of Martin Truex Jr. turning a corner and getting back to what Truex Jr. was doing earlier this year? I don't have a clue. Martin Truex Jr. is not finished in the top 15 for the first 6 races of the playoffs. That's insane for somebody who was the regular season points champion. Hasn't finished in the top 15 to start this first 6 races of the playoffs. What do you do with that? I mean, yeah, at this point, you kind of have to take the risk and fade. Now, you can be completely contrarian and play Truex Jr. a lot more, but that is risky. Now, I mean, we look at Vegas and Martin Truex Jr., he's got a 6.4 average finish over the last 5 races at Vegas. Vegas is one of his better tracks. This is going to be the indicator race on whether Martin Truex Jr. is done for this year and his mindset just isn't right after Sherry passed away, which awful for him. Regardless of how their relationship ended, he still spent a long time with her, and I'm sure it is affecting his mental state. So, yeah, sucks. But is that affecting his on-track performance? I mean, yeah, potentially. But historically, Martin Truex Jr., 6.4 average finish at Vegas, 50.3 Draftkings average, 5 top 10s out of the last 5 races. He hasn't finished out of the top 10. I mean, all indications are he should do extremely well at this. He was fast in practice. But what have you done for me lately, Martin? Nothing. You've fallen off the face of the earth. You literally, if you had not finished the regular season championship in first, you would not still be in the playoffs. In fact, the 19 car is not in the playoffs. He is, where Chase Elliott is not, but the 9 team is. Yeah, we got another screwy year. Yeah, we potentially could go to Vegas or to Phoenix. Chase Elliott finish second. Ty Gibbs win the race, and William Byron finish third. And you literally have a different race winner, owner's champion, and driver champion. What is this? Everybody gets a win? I don't know. It's crazy to think about where we're at with this points. Yeah, kind of makes your head spin a little bit. All right, let's get back to some drivers. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys with all that information, but I find it, I love data, and I love digging into the data because there's a lot of telltale signs in the data. So when I say I don't know what to do with Martin Truex Jr., I don't know what to do with Martin Truex Jr. The trend is he's not good right now. The trend at Vegas, he's one of the best. Don't know. Flip a coin. You love the data. More data, more data. Okay. I'll keep sharing as much data as I've got. And every week I kind of find another different data point that I go, is this something I need to look at? And then I go, nah, that's not worth it. Or then I go, this starting spot thing is probably for real. So it definitely has made me, and I've actually done better the last 2 weeks after I've started looking at that. I'm back to making money again. I'm not hitting the big ones, but I'm now making money each week. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So things are heading the right direction on that. Now we're at the end of the season. We're going to change everything up next year. So Either Draftkings will change something or NASCAR will make some significant change in this car and it'll run completely different. Christopher Bell, 9,800. The Rocket Man. God, he's fast in qualifying. But I would have to go back and look at the races where Christopher Bell started first. I'm not sure he has ever made the top 15 in points. I mean, maybe once or twice. But Christopher Bell on the pole is not good. In fact, Christopher Bell, first, second, third, or fourth, typically does not end up well for Christopher Bell, at least in DraftKings. Because, I mean, he can go out and start on the pole, not lead a ton of laps, and then finish 8th, which is not a bad points day for driver points. It keeps you in the chase, but it doesn't end up being that great of a day, especially at $9,800 for DraftKings. So it's not like he was long run speed fast in practice either. And he was not bad either. He was 17th and 16th in 10 lap consecutive average. I mean, respectable. But starting first, I mean, one small slip, one bad pit stop, one bad long run speed, speed on pit road, and that's all for naught. Now, I mean, the same thing could be said for Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin, and I mean, and all those guys end up making mistakes too. But it's just I'm not a complete fade on Christopher Bell. I still have 10 to 15% ownership in him. But when I look at what he does at Vegas, he's got a 16th place average finish. Yeah, he finished 5th in the spring. Okay, not bad. Only one top 5, which was the one this past spring, and 3 top 10s. 19.6 average finish over 7 races. I mean, a lot of indications are that, I mean, sure, Christopher Bell could go out and lead 150 laps and win this thing. I get it. Data doesn't show that, though. There's always that chance, and that's part of DraftKings. So, I mean, I think Christopher Bell probably could be a contrarian play. It's a risky contrarian play, in my opinion. Ryan Blaney, 9,600, starting 12th, practiced 12th, 8th in 10 lap consecutive average, pretty consistent. Finished 13th in this race earlier this year. Okay. Bill has had 6 poles, 1 win, 8 top 5s. You're talking about, well, you can't have 8 top 5s and 6 poles. So the question is, when Bell won, did he start from the pole? And out of those 8 top 5s, how many times did he start on the pole? Yeah, see, I only have the last 10 races on my trend sheet. So, I mean, we can just go look at the trend for Cup. Where's my trend sheet? Alright, so my trend sheet. If we look at Christopher Bell, he's got an average starting spot of 5.9. This is over the last 10 races. And a 10.9 average finish. He's got 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s, 9 top 20s. So most of the time he's finishing the top 20. Doesn't show me how many poles he actually had. And I guess we could do this real quick. Yeah, he started from the pole here in Michigan, finished 13th. Started 15th, finished 16th at Daytona. That's kind of wonky. At Darlington, started from the pole, finished 23rd. At Kansas, started from the pole, finished 8th. I mean, shows you what happens. I mean, he led 15 laps, but he ended up with only 37.25 points. I mean, Ryan Blaney had the same thing, starting 17th and finishing 12th. So, I mean, it's risky. Bristol, he did start from the pole and finished 3rd with 115 points. Okay, so there's probably an optimal lineup. Texas, he started 9th, finished 4th. Roval, he started second, finished 15th. So, and that's just kind of what I'm saying is, I mean, out of the, what, 3 or 4 races where he started pole or outside pole, that he made the optimal lineup. So, yeah. So that's Christopher Bell. On to Ryan Blaney. 9,600, starting 12th. I think we went all through this. Only one pole winner here in the last 31 races. At Las Vegas, the pole winner, the pole sitter has won the race. Yeah, and that actually may have been Larson in 21, if I'm thinking about that correctly. Spring of 21. You could probably answer that. I think that may have been the year that it was either the spring or fall of 21 where Larson dominated this race from the pole. And that was when I was like, if Kyle Larson's on the pole and he was first in practice, just put it in. It didn't matter. Just put it in your lineup. I mean, like, I'm not scared to take Larson starting outside pole today. I am a little nervous about Christopher Bell starting on the front row, just because he hasn't. I mean, both of them are risky. Don't get me wrong, but I'm more willing. And I'm a Kyle Larson fan, so I get it. I don't dislike Christopher Bell, but I just have a little bit more trust in Kyle Larson and that team than I do Christopher Bell and his team. I was right with Larson. I mean, it also helps being a Larson homer. So I remember 21. It was a glorious year. At least for me and being a Kyle Larson fan. But I've been a Kyle Larson fan when he was in ARCA and late models and watching him on dirt. So I've been a Larson fan for a long time. It's definitely not I'm not just jumping on the bandwagon. Ryan Blaney, 9,600, starting 12th. Decently consistent at 1.5 miles. He's okay at Vegas. I mean, if we look at his total body of work, he's got a 9.5 average finish out of 14 races, but the last 5, he's got a 17.4. So lately, it's not been as good, but Ryan Blaney also won Charlotte. Pretty decent tire wear track. Same kind of speed. I mean, Ryan Blaney should have a solid day. I mean, I've got 25 to 30% ownership in Ryan Blaney. I don't mind the Ryan Blaney play at all today. Out of all the Penske drivers, he's actually been the more consistent, and that's why, I mean, Ryan Blaney missed the playoffs last year, and he's made the final 8 this year. There's something about it. So, yeah, I don't mind the Ryan Blaney play today. I think he has the potential of having a pretty good run. Kyle Busch, 9,400. Oh, this is his home track. He's from Vegas. He typically runs pretty well here. He's got a 5.4 average finish over the last 5 races. Now, remember, most of those were in Toyotas. One was in this new Chevy, Richard Childress Chevy. Finished 14th last spring. But I mean, Kyle Busch is almost kind of in the same boat as that I put Martin Truex Jr. in. It's like, what? Where is Kyle Busch right now? And I don't know. And I don't know. Lately, it's not been good. At this track, it's been pretty good. You could literally put Kyle Busch and Martin Truex. You want to completely have a contrarian lineup. Run those two. Yeah, that would be an interesting lineup to run. Put those two together. Leave Chase Elliott out. Put Daniel Suarez in, and then see what else you can fit in. My big question is, who do you think finishes better? Tyler Reddick or Christopher Bell? Tyler Reddick. Gut reaction, real quick, off the cuff. I think finishes better. So if we're looking at a betting question and you've got the option of who finishes better, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell. Tyler Reddick. I don't even have to think about it. I think Tyler Reddick's better at this mile and a half style track than. Now you can come back next week and say, dude, you were completely off. I'll take the criticism because I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot. But I base everything that I do in data. And if I don't, and I'm going off of a gut, I typically try to tell you guys, hey, this is a gut play. The data has nothing to do with how I feel. It's something I saw during practice, or I heard in an interview in the week, or a whatever. I mean, it's kind of like Martin Truex Jr. with his ex-girlfriend, fiance Sherry. I mean, there's nothing in data that's going to tell me that happened in his personal life, and that may be affecting his driving on the track. I mean, the same thing with, I guess Bubba Wallace's, the data kind of comes through that he's gotten much better. Trust me, I've seen a complete turnaround in Bubba Wallace this year and his mindset when it comes to races and when things go wrong on the track. But I think there's something about this Martin Truex thing. Now, what's going on with Kyle Busch? I mean, maybe it's been a major distraction that he was selling Kyle Busch Motorsports and he's on this new team and other things. It's hard to say, and you can't figure that out on data. That's where I call it's a gut play. But I don't know what to do with Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr. Right now, the current trend is they're not great. Kyle Busch had a decent run last weekend at the Roval, but the tracks that you think Kyle Busch should be, I mean, top 3, he's not there. So something's still amiss with the Kyle Busch play, and it's a little too inconsistent. I said I'm not completely faded off. I've got 10 to 15%, but I don't know if I love the Kyle Busch play today. Chase Elliott, 9,200, starting 35th in a backup car. They were fast in practice. Maybe a little too fast. Maybe they wouldn't have blown that tire and had to go to a backup. 4th in single lap, 15 total laps of practice in that car that won't be racing. These cars are so similar that they'll unload it, they'll put the new wrap on it, they'll tweak it, and it'll be just like the other car. So I'm not worried about going to a backup car. I'm not worried a whole lot about tire wear. Now, we have a super long green flag run. What I'm saying, 40, 45, 50 lap type run where they're really kind of getting on that edge. With the tire wear, we could see some failures. And Chase Elliott's pretty decent at this track. He should be able to get himself... I'm thinking I'm going to call a 6th or 7th place finish for Chase Elliott today. I think it's going to be kind of a John Hunter Nemechek style day that we saw yesterday. He's going to get up there, potentially might lead a lap or two, and then kind of fade back a little bit and just kind of cruise to a top 5, top 10 type of finish. Which, if he does that and you don't have him in your lineup's pretty much close to being sunk. Chase Elliott, and he's going to be chalky. He's going to be 50% owned. John Hunter Nemechek, I think, was 54% owned yesterday in the Xfinity, and I'm actually surprised it wasn't higher. Chris Buescher, next in line here, $9,000, starting 5th. He was 2nd in single lap, 4th in 10-lap consecutive average. And here once again, the stats, at least at Vegas and full history, do not show that he is a great play. But we've also seen Chris Buescher have just a phenomenal year lately. So that's where you kind of have to remember to use your brain and kind of go, okay, is what he's doing this year an anomaly, or is his history here is an anomaly? Or is it just now that RFK is turning the corner and Chris Buescher is turning the corner? I mean, starting 5th, it's a little tough for me to make that play, but I could easily see the argument. He was really fast in practice. He qualified really well. He's in the chase. He's in the championship hunt. He got there with 3 wins. I mean, Chris Buescher easily could win this race. And I would not be sitting here going, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. He could easily win and lock himself into the Final Four. He's almost going to have to win to get to the Final Four. I just think he's got a really tough uphill battle ahead of him, because the tracks beyond Vegas and maybe Homestead. I haven't looked at the full data for Miami Homestead to find out if Chris Buescher is going to perform well there or not. I mean, it's a 1.5 mile oval, so I mean potentially, but we get to Martinsville and he's not there yet. Buescher's not great on the short tracks. He's not bad, but he's not at the flatter short tracks. So that would also worry me if with him making it all the way to Phoenix. But I mean, all bets are off if you're in the Final Four in Phoenix. They throw all sorts of craziness into that car and make it to where. And then there's a reason why typically the top 4 in points, or the 4 guys running for the championship, finish 1 through 4. So, and we'll discuss that. That's for the Phoenix podcast or YouTube channel video. Joe Logano, our champion from last year, at this race. He finished 36th in the spring. Yeah, I think he just literally, if I remember correctly, he just clobbered the wall coming out of turn 4 by himself. And that's just been how Joey Logano's year has gone. It's not the Joey Logano, it has been self-inflicted wound after self-inflicted wound all year. And I do not expect that to change at all. He's had decent speed in that car. The Penske's, I mean, look at Ryan Blaney. He's in the top 8 in points. So most of what's happening with Joey Logano is self-inflicted. So, I mean, he came in 17th on my ranking chart. I've got him in 0 to 5%. He's starting too far up. I mean, he's one of the guys in the top, starting in the top 10 that I just don't have any interest in. It's, what have you done for me lately? And it's nothing. I mean, if we look at his past history here in the last 5 races, like I said, he had this win last year in this race. Out of his 20 total races here, he's got 3 wins. He knows how to win at Vegas. But I'm more concerned about the trend with Joey Logano. So I'm fading off because of the trend. Bubba Wallace, $8,600, starting 7th. Oh, this one's probably going to come back to bite me. Starting 7th in practice, finished 4th in this race earlier this year. The 2311 team is really good at 1.5 miles. But now that Bubba Wallace is out of the playoff hunt, does that change his mindset? Or is he more determined to win a race before the year's out? I don't know. I don't really honestly know what to do with the Bubba Wallace call. This is not one of his better 1.5 mile tracks, even though he did finish 4th in the spring. And this 2311 team has just started to turn things on. So I could see a decent finish here with Bubba Wallace, but I'm kind of in the same boat. There's not a whole lot of upward points to get for Bubba Wallace. And I don't think he could be. I don't think he could be a factor to battle a William Byron, a Kyle Larson, a Tyler Reddick today. I could be completely off of that, but I think because they're not in the playoffs anymore, there may be a little bit of fade instead of, okay, we're going to go out and win a race. I mean, look at Riley Herbst yesterday, not in the chase, had been super aggravated all year because he hadn't won a race, missed the playoffs by 1 spot, and goes out and just puts a clinic on the Xfinity field yesterday. It was just an absolute clinic. So, I mean, Bubba Wallace could pull something like that off. And if he does, yeah, I'm sunk. So, I'm going to stay with my fade on Bubba Wallace. But I could see some argument for potentially putting him in some lineups. I mean, that could be a pretty contrarian. If you want to put a complete contrarian stack together, I mean, Bubba Wallace could be another one to put in there along with Joey Logano. Who else did I say up front? Daniel Suarez, Christopher Bell. Yeah. A few of your fellow reviewers are heavy on the 23 for a top 10. Oh, okay. Cool. I mean, it's definitely potentially there. I would not fault my fellow reviewers being heavy on the 23. Maybe this is just a kind of a gut check. I mean, there's also some data here that says it's not great, but we look at what have you done for me lately, and Bubba Wallace has done much better at this style track. So I could see holding on to Bubba Wallace here. I'm not trying to say no on that. So yeah, I think for my lineups, I'm not taking Bubba Wallace, but I'm not also trying to sell anybody on not taking Bubba Wallace. So I would take Bubba Wallace over Joe Logano. I do know that. So if I had the two comparisons, I'm going to take Bubba Wallace over Joe Logano. Brad Keselowski, 8,500. Starting 21st, practice 21st. Finished 17th in this race earlier this spring. Now, RFK and Brad Keselowski have gotten a little bit better as the year has progressed. Do I think it's as good to go out and potentially win a race type of year? I'm not quite ready to go there. Do I think Brad Keselowski can get himself close to a top 10? I'm going to say close. Between 8th and 12th. Potentially. I think the speed there, at least in the RFK cars, it might be the best of all the Fords. So, I mean, the question is, did they put a little bit more time and energy into Chris Buescher's car and not as much into Brad? Because Brad being a team owner, and as we have seen all year, a team player out the wazoo, Brad will be perfectly fine taking and being happy with a 12th place finish if his car finishes top 3. If the 17 car finishes top 3. I'm sorry. I don't know. I still like the Brad Keselowski play starting 21st. There's enough place differential here for me to take that risk and take that shot on Brad Keselowski. And he has won at Vegas 3 times. Got a 12.8 average finish over 20 races. In the last 5 races, it's a 13.4, so not quite as good. But they've been running a little better lately, so I'm willing to take the gamble on Brad K. Now, he did not run well at the Roval last week, but I kind of knew that was coming. Ross Chastain, 8,300. Starting 10th, he was first in practice on single lap, did not do a 10-lap consecutive average. Finished 12th in the spring, got a 12.6 average finish over the last 5 races. I think this is kind of a play where Ross finishes where he starts. I don't think his long run speed's great. I mean, maybe I look at a couple lineups that I fade off of Ross a little bit and move Bubba in. So I could easily see now that, and this is why I like doing this video. Somebody was like, "Oh, you need to sell your data." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, eventually I probably can." I'm not quite ready there yet. I still have a little couple of hiccups in my software that I know of that I need to work on, but I also know that where they are. So it's not quite ready for a full where I would feel comfortable selling the data, whereas giving some data for free, it's free. You get what you pay for. So, I mean, the data is for the most part very solid. There are a couple little things that I'm still working on that I don't bring into here when I'm kind of looking at things. But why I do this video, back to the reason why. Well, all of a sudden it kind of makes me go, should I have a little bit more Bubba? I probably should have a little bit more Bubba. Am I a little too heavy on Ross starting in 10th? Yeah, maybe. He didn't do a 10-lap consecutive average. That kind of worries me. His teammate wrecked his car with tire failure. All right, there's a little concern there. So all of a sudden, I started looking at everything, and I'm like, all right, Bubba Wallace was pretty consistent. I think he was fastest in his Group A practice. So, yeah, I mean, maybe there is an argument that I should look a little bit more at Bubba Wallace and maybe a little less with Ross, and maybe I don't mind the Brad play because of where he's starting, but I could easily see moving some ownership from Ross to Bubba. So that's part of the reason why I do this video. All of a sudden, I see some things that I don't when I do my lineups my first run. Kevin Harvick, $8,000, and that's also why I put a gap of percentage own, because I do go back and tweak some lineups, and I also don't want to just straight up share my lineups, because then somebody just copies it, and if I do well, they do well, which I don't mind, but I don't want somebody to come on here, take one of my lineups, and go over there. I do a very thorough review. I check you out every week. Thanks for all your time and effort. Oh, Paul, I appreciate the views and the follows and all that. And I mean, kind of like what you're saying. I may not have gone back and rethought about the Bubba Wallace play. So, and that's the great thing about doing this as a kind of a community, or everybody kind of throwing their 2 cents in is, I mean, I'm sure some of you guys are like, dude, you're crazy. Bubba Wallace is going to win the race. And I'd be like, I don't know about winning the race, but I could see the play for running a little bit more Bubba. So, wow, we're already an hour and 11 minutes in. I guess I need to wrap this up. We got a race, and I need to get these entries in here soon. So do you. So let's continue on here. Kevin Harvick, $8,000. You want to talk about somebody who's just kind of fallen off the face of the earth at this point? I think he's already semi-retired. But that doesn't mean he's not going to go out and give it a good shot. Starting 24th, he was 24th in single lap practice. Okay, not great. 17th in 10-lap consecutive average. Okay, not great, especially when only 24 cars did 10-lap consecutive average. But you've got a 12.4 average finish, and you finished 9th in the spring. I'm willing to take the shot on Kevin Harvick because there is some place differential here, and he does have a tendency to end up running better later in a race. So has a tendency to shoot himself on the foot on pit road, him and his crew. So, I mean, Kevin Harvick is probably a 15th place car, maybe tops a 10th place car. So there's some place differential there. It's not a ton though. So, I mean, there's another one. If I've got room, maybe 1 or 2 little fades off of Kevin, 1 or 2 little fades off of Brad, throw him into the bubble camp, take 4 or 5 lineups, move them from Ross to Bubba, and then all of a sudden now Bubba is going to be kind of in that 15 to 20% ownership. So that's probably where I'm going to end up pulling from to get some Bubba Wallace coverage. So hopefully that helps. Ty Gibbs. I know. Everybody's like, you call this guy to win the race every week. I say I think Ty Gibbs has a shot at winning a race before the year's out, and he does. I mean, he runs the most practice laps. If anything, I give Ty Gibbs absolute credit for running. I mean, and it's consistently every week. Ty Gibbs runs the absolute most laps in practice. He doesn't look to try to change the car. They feel the car is set up right. He goes out and he runs a ton of laps in practice. Every week, consistently, you go look at total laps run in a practice session, Ty Gibbs is, if not the top, he's within the top 5 of running the most laps in practice. He's going to end up, he may win the race by the end of this year. This is probably his best opportunity to do that. He's pretty good at Miami Homestead, but once we get to Martinsville and Phoenix, I mean, number one, he's not going to be in the top 4. So, and pretty much NASCAR just tells everybody else that's not in the top 4, just stay away from him. You don't want to be that guy. I mean, Ryan Blaney, a couple weeks after the finale last year, was like, "Oh, I had 20% more in my car than Joe Logano did, but Penske told me to stand down." I mean, yeah. So I mean, there are team orders and there's some NASCAR orders, and NASCAR will never tell a team to do something, but they highly recommend not to screw with the top four. Um, and I mean, nor do any of these guys want to mess with the top four. So I think the area of window for these guys to win races, Ty Gibbs, I think it's legitimate this week or next week. I don't think he can pull it off in Martinsville. He's decent at Martinsville. He's won the Xfinity Series there, or he was leading a ton, and then Sam Mayer got into him, and then he and Sam Mayer got in a fight. Pattern there. All right, back to this. I don't mind the Ty Gibbs play starting 11th. I don't love it either because Ty Gibbs has a tendency to do something stupid in a race more times than not, and that's just being a rookie, and that's just learning. But I can also understand why you don't play him a whole lot. So I've got him in 10 to 15% of lineups. He's starting 11th. Not a whole lot of upswing for place differential and potential ton of downswing if he ends up doing something stupid. So I've got a little bit of ownership. I think there's a small potential he could win the race, but I don't think he's got the speed to go and win the race over a Kyle Larson, a William Byron, a Denny Hamlin, a Tyler Reddick. Just don't see it. So maybe 5th is the best. Is the ceiling on Ty Gibbs? Could be completely wrong, but that's just kind of my thought. Alex Bowman, $7,700, starting 14th. He was 11th in single lap practice. He finished 3rd in this race in the spring last year. Yeah, you want to talk about just an absolute disappointment. Alex Bowman, just after breaking his back, number one, that sucks. Number two, the year has just crumbled for Alex Bowman. I think they're just kind of using this as a test session for next year. So starting 14th, I think he finishes where he starts. I mean, could go a couple spots either way, but I just don't see I'm going to go out and win in the cards for Alex Bowman today. He's won in the last 4 races, so I think he won spring of 22, if I remember correctly. He did not win this past spring. He did not win the fall of last year because that was Joey Logano's. I think it was spring of 22 that Alex Bowman won. But yeah, I mean he's good here. He's not lighting the world on fire either. So I mean I've got a little bit of ownership in Alex Bowman, but not a ton. Eric Jones, 7,500, starting 23rd. And I think this is where Eric Jones starts to struggle again. And that's just a gut feeling. There is a little bit of data that backs that up. But starting 23rd, 22nd in practice, finished 19th, 18.8 average finish over the last 5 races here. Never finished in the top 5. 12 races total with an 18.7 average finish. I think you're a 19th to 21st place car and driver for this track. So, yeah, I've got a little bit of ownership in case something wonky happens, but not a whole lot. Daniel Suarez, 7,300. What do you do with Daniel Suarez? God, the guy is just having a tough year. Starting 36, wrecked his car in practice. Even in practice, the car was not super fast. 26th in single lap. Well, I mean, here's your problem. As I just said, Ty Gibbs typically runs the most laps in practice. Well, Daniel Suarez wrecked on lap 31. Well, when you're running 30-second lap times and only have 20 minutes of practice, yeah, you're trying to run the longest you can absolutely run, and you ran out of tire. His average finish is 20th, or almost 21st. He did finish 10th in the spring. I mean, starting 36, there's nowhere to go but up. And as far as place difference, I mean, if he finishes 20th, I mean that's 16 points right there by itself, and then I mean you're looking at least getting into the top 15 in points, and it's 7,300. That's a solid day. So if you had to fade off of Chase Elliott or Daniel Suarez, I'm going to fade off of Daniel Suarez. If you can put them both in, put them both in, or just put Chase Elliott in. I mean, I do have a few lineups that Daniel Suarez is in there and Chase Elliott is not, but I'm also running 40 different lineups, so that gives me a little bit of the luxury of doing that. Where what was it, Lost Profit or Lost Profit's got the single entry. It's kind of what I'm thinking back to at 180. I mean, you could run the Daniel Suarez. It's going to be chalky though. I think sometimes if you're trying to do that single entry, you kind of have to be you have to play it a little bit contrarian, but a little bit kind of like a cash play where you don't want to be overly contrarian. So you don't. I mean, like I think the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. play is as good of a play as a Daniel Suarez play. 6 spots of place differential. Ricky's having a better year than Daniel is. But what have you done at this track? I mean, they're about the same, to be honest. And Ricky was decent in practice. He was better in practice than Daniel was, at least in single lap speed. So yeah, I mean, both of them are about the same. I think you kind of can put them kind of close to the same boat. Chase Briscoe here, $7,000. I think he just kind of outkicked his qualifying a little bit. I know outkicking 17th is kind of tough to say, but when you're 17th in practice and you've got a 20.4 average finish here at Vegas and 28th in the spring, there's kind of nothing here that makes me go, ooh, yeah. And also, SHR has just been struggling this last few races. I mean, Ryan Preece had a good run last week, but I don't trust SHR right now. Eric Almirola, same thing. SHR goes out and practices or qualifies 13th, 21st in single lap practice. He finished 16th in this race in the spring, 19.4 average finish. I mean, there's not a whole lot here for me to say other than I mean, at best, Eric Almirola finishes where he starts, which in my world doesn't work for DraftKings. AJ Allmendinger, I mean, we're going to have some momentum here coming off of the win from last week. 67 in momentum or confidence, I don't care which one you call it. It's still pretty much kind of the same thing. He's feeling confident after a win last week. Yeah, you kind of smell that blood in the water. $6,700 starting 22nd, 20th in practice. Over 2 starts here at Vegas. He's got a 13.5 average finish. Finished 18th in the spring race. I mean, I've got a little bit of ownership just because of the momentum piece, but I mean, honestly, his stats line up very, very similar to Briscoe and Almirola. So, yeah, I mean, I think I've got him in 2 or 3 more lineups than some of those other guys, but I mean, kind of the same thing with Michael McDowell here. I mean, this whole page right here, this whole grouping is kind of wonky. 6,600 starting 18th. He was 15th in single lap practice. Didn't do a 10-lap consecutive average. 21.8 average finish. Only 2 top 20s in the last 5 races. He's never finished in the top 10 here at Vegas and finished 25th in the spring. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing here or even in recent that makes me go, yeah, Michael McDowell's it's on the right track. So, yeah. We don't have a whole lot of data, at least previously, on Carson Hocevar, other than he's finished top 20 in almost every Cup start except for his brake failure. Well, I guess he didn't finish well at Talladega, but Talladega's Talladega. It's an anomaly. But prior to that, he's been lights out in the 42. So I'm maybe 6th in single lap practice. Okay, I'm willing to ride the Carson Hocevar train a little bit longer here. Even though I just kind of got onto it a little bit. I'm not sure anybody got on, but I'm going to start getting on this Carson Hocevar train and kind of see where it takes me. Starting 25th, decent amount of place differential. He's going to be owned, but I don't think he's going to be super heavily owned. So kind of a potential contrarian play for any of you those guys looking for sneaky. I don't know how sneaky Carson Hocevar is at this point, but he might still be a little bit. Austin Dillon, 6,300. I mean, kind of like a bunch of the other guys on the last page, starting 16th, 27th in practice, 13th in 10-lap consecutive average, but 14.6 average finish over the last 5 races, 13.3 average finish over his 16 total races here at Vegas. Kind of get what you start. You can finish where you start. So I don't have a whole lot of interest in Austin Dillon. I don't think it's going to be a bad race for him. I don't think it's going to be a great race. And starting 16th, I need a great finish out of Austin Dillon. Ryan Preece, at least here we've got some place differential, even though I don't love SHR and I don't love Ryan Preece on 1.5s. But starting 32nd, there's a decent amount of room for place differential here. It's not going to be a ton, but I mean, if he can just get up to in the teens, even high teens, at 6,100, that's probably enough to be in the top 10 in points this week. And maybe knocking on being in the optimal lineup. I think it's a good call. I do like the Ryan Preece play, but I probably expect him to be a little bit owned. Sorry, my dad's texting me. Austin Cindric next here at $6,000. I mean, kind of like the Austin Dillon play and the rest of them. I think he's going to finish where he starts. Starting 19th, he was 18th in practice. Average finish of 18th. That's only 3 starts at Vegas. Got you. He did finish in 6th earlier this year. But the beginning of this year for Penske has been completely different than the second half. So I think we'll be lucky if Austin Cindric finishes where he starts. I think it's going to be probably a little bit worse. Justin Haley here at $5,900, starting 20th. I mean, I think out of all of these, I think Ryan Preece is the best play on so far on this page. Justin Haley, I think, is an okay play. Don't love it, don't hate it. I don't know really what to do with Justin Haley other than I kind of got down here and needed some cheap plays and started looking. I was like, okay, I've got Ryan Preece in quite a few, and I don't love anybody else. So I guess I have to run Justin Haley. So it's kind of a nobody else really fit well, and I'd already used kind of what in my mind an allotment was for somebody. So that's why Justin Haley got some decent play. Corey LaJoie, I like the play a little bit better than I do the Justin Haley play. As you can see, 25% ownership. But I mean, the stats are what they are. But if we look at what Corey LaJoie and the 7 team Inspire are doing as of recent, it's not great. It's better. So starting 28th, we've got some place differential upside. Practice didn't go well for them. So I could easily say I don't love the Corey LaJoie play. I don't hate the Corey LaJoie play. But I mean, once again, I got down here and was like, I don't love the Ryan Preece play by any means, but to take the lineups that we've talked about taking, you got to find some room down here. And that's going to be the case for everybody. Everybody's going to have to find a couple of guys down here. Which ones hit, which ones don't? I mean, Harrison Burton starting 33rd. Once again, I don't love the Harrison Burton play, but I don't really like any of these. And it's going to be a crapshoot. Between Harrison Burton, Todd Gillen, Corey LaJoie, and maybe a Justin Haley, and I guess maybe Ty Dillon. But I think Ty Dillon's starting too far up. We'll get them in a minute. 5,600. Harrison's starting 33rd, 34th in single lap. Finished. I mean, there's nothing here that makes me go, okay. Well, on a good day, he's going to finish 22nd to 24th. Maybe, and that's a big maybe. But once again, you had to have room up top, so you have to play these guys. Todd Gillen, at least Todd Gillen has had a slightly better year than Harrison Burton. Then that's being generous. $5,400 starting 29th, 33rd in single lap, 21st out of 24 and 10 lap consecutive average. I mean, none of these guys are good options, but one of them's gonna be there. The law of averages, unless we just have a complete catastrophe up front, and it wipes out the top 4 in points, you have to play these guys. And I don't love any of them, but I know that we got to play them. So I like the Corey LaJoy play probably the best. Harrison Burton and Todd Gillen are okay. I do not like the J.J. Yaley starting in 26th play at all, so we'll fade off of that one. The Ty Dillon starting 27th, I definitely don't like at all. I would have much rather seen Ty Dillon starting 33rd or 34th or something. So don't love this. I don't like his starting spot at all. Brendan Poole, sorry. No, 34th, never won a race here. And then BJ McLeod, starting 31st. Yeah, I mean, there's just not a whole lot of great options down here. I mean, Austin Dillon starting too far up, Austin Cindric starting too far up. So Ryan Preece is kind of one of the better plays for place differential. Corey LaJoy maybe, and I mean Harrison Burton's got a decent amount of place differential, but it just gets wonky back here, and I don't like any of these options. Guys that I like the best to run up front or have the highest points for DraftKings: Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Chase Elliott. I think Tyler Reddick could easily be there. Don't love the Ross play. I'm super confused about Martin Truex Jr. and what to do with him. You guys have kind of sold me a little bit more on potentially looking at some Bubba Wallace. Cheaper options, I mean, like we just discussed. Maybe Corey LaJoy, Ricky Stenhouse, maybe Ryan Preece. Once again, I just don't love any of them. But I know they're going to have to be there. All right, let's look at some optimal lineups from Vegas previously, and we'll kind of wrap this thing up. I'm an hour and a half in. God, I could just sit here and just ramble all day, right? Don't mean to. Just find it very interesting. Can't believe that some of you guys have stuck around as long as you have. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, Justin Haley started 27th, finished 8th. I mean, it's all up front. Vegas fall of 2022. I mean, Justin Haley again. So, I mean, maybe that's why I was kind of drawn to him, is he has finished well, at least in optimal lineups. But, I mean, got a 4 place differentials here, but only 1 from the spring race. I mean, this fall one gets a little bit more wonky because guys are trying to fight to get in. Then the spring of 22, I mean, that was literally the second or third race with the next gen car, so it was kind of wonky, but I mean, still, once again, I mean, nobody started in the top 10, and this is kind of what I used to be looking at. I was like, oh my gosh, nobody in the top 10, nobody in the top 10. Only 2 guys in the top 10. I got to focus on place differential. And then all of a sudden I was like, hold on a second, I'm kind of missing some stuff here. Yeah, so Denny Hamlin started 6th, finished 1st, but led 137 laps. Ross Chastain led 83 laps, so maybe that's kind of what's kind of made me think about some Ross. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it kind of helps. I mean, it's still a little wonky, but I mean, this is a little explainable because it was literally the second or third race that they had raced with the next gen new era car. This is a playoff race, which is going to be kind of what we're looking at today. So yeah, I mean 5,800, 6,400. So I mean you had to play them. Now nobody priced over $10,000, which is kind of an interesting point to look at. Only one super high end up here, Kyle Larson, but William Byron was not priced up by that point, and should have probably been. So yeah, hopefully that helps you guys out. I appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, I leave for Kansas for a week tomorrow. I'll be back Friday night late, so might be Sunday morning before I have this video ready to go again for Miami Homestead. Then the following weekend I am out of town for Martinsville, and I will not be at Martinsville. Kind of sad about that, as I literally have only missed like 4 races at Martinsville in the last 30 years. But my son's playing baseball in Charleston. Now, I guess I can pray for a rain out to Monday, but not in Charleston. We're pretty far apart. And then I can make the Monday race. So, fingers crossed on that one. We'll see. But either way, I still plan on doing the video at some point Saturday night in Charleston for the Martinsville race. So next weekend probably be Sunday morning. The following weekend will probably be Saturday night, and then we'll have championship week, which I'll be back home for, and we'll break down the year and the final race. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Good luck today. Let me know if you hit for the big one today, and thanks for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button. We will talk to you next week. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Mac. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
Great job, guys. Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away.
Yeah, boys! Way to rebound! Great job!
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.